right, so I just got back from working out and I thought that this would be the perfect time to watch the second 50 Shades of Grey. One of the reasons why I wanted to watch this series was because it is something that a lot of people in my community consider to be an inaccurate portrayal of BDSM. I'm kind of new to doing movie reviews and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it. Now, I will start by saying that this video is going to be a little chaotic potentially. I'm planning on doing several things in this video. I'm going to have a cup of homemade boba, and then I'm going to do my nails, and then I'm gonna do my makeup. I feel like I can do all of that in 2 hours and 11 minutes. Okay, so I've got the mix in here. Also, this is a lot of boba. I'm probably gonna have to have more than one of these to like justify that. I think that this might be copacetic. Okay, so. Oh, I'm such a basic bitch with my boba. That's so satisfying. That's honestly so satisfying. We're going to watch some 50 Shades of Grey. I'm gonna do my nails. I'm gonna come and comment as we go. Hopefully this will all go easy because I don't wanna watch this movie 5 times just to get this video out. So let's go. But before we get into this video, I wanted to let you guys know that it's sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an amazing online learning service that's by creatives for creatives that's all about expanding your creative talents. From writing to illustrating to sewing to cooking, you can find all types of classes on Skillshare, and with an annual membership, you can get it all for under $10 a month. Right now I'm taking a class by Thomas Frank that's all about being productive and staying focused and on task, and he just has some really, really great nuggets of knowledge, and I just love the fact that he has a bunch of classes on Skillshare. If you're interested in Skillshare, they were nice enough to give the first 1,000 of my followers who click on the link in the description box a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. The film starts with a short scene of Christian Grey as a young boy running away from an altercation between his mother and presumably another man, showing that he grew up in an abusive home. At the end of the last movie, Anna and Christian Grey had broken up, and at the beginning of this movie, Christian Grey is still continuing to reach out to her. She gets gift upon gift, and she gets so many flowers that they eventually start to wither. Didn't they break up? He's still sending her stuff? Since leaving Christian Grey, Anna started working towards her dream job. She took up a job as a writer's assistant, and the writer clearly has a really inappropriate crush on her. After work, she goes to her old friend Jose's photography shows, and she's really surprised to see so many pictures of her in the room. Jose comes up to her and excitedly tells her that somebody has purchased all of the portraits of her.
Oh, like strangers gawking at you.
Why are you here?
Wow, that's so creepy.
For you.
After the gallery, Christian Grey decides to take Anna out for dinner, and they have a conversation about what went wrong in their relationship.
I know that I asked you to show me how far it can go, but you were getting off on the pain you inflicted.
Duh. So if you guys watched my first review, here's the thing. I think that Anna and Christian are not meant for each other. I definitely don't think that they should be together because Anna is reluctant to do BDSM. Christian is really into BDSM. And one of the things I said in my conclusion of my whole review was that I think that this is actually very realistic because I've known a lot of dominant men who are almost more excited by women who don't have experience, don't know what they're doing, are very confused about, exactly why things are what. And personally, I think that bad dominates who, I personally don't trust, are very excited by that inexperience. And I think that Christian Grey ultimately was an irresponsible dominant by doing his worst, right? That all being said, it still baffles me that he spent the entire movie basically saying to her face, I want to slap you around and beat you and spank you and da-da-da-da-da. And for some reason, some way, she was surprised when it happened and surprised that he enjoys it, If there's one piece of credit I will give Christian Grey, it's that he has always been very honest about what he wants. He's always been very straightforward about what he wants. And it's just not what she wants. I think that like the thing that's frustrating about me watching this couple is that they're clearly not meant for each other. And for some people, it's romantic to date somebody who's into something like BDSM and slowly but surely push them away from it. But let me just tell you, that honestly doesn't tend to work. It might work for a bit, but it doesn't honestly tend to work. I think people learn not to share that side of themselves, but that's not, actually them changing. By the end of their conversation, they decide to rekindle their relationship.
No rules, no punishments, and no more secrets.
I can do that.
Christian Grey drops Anna back at home, and the camera pans down to reveal a woman looking up into her apartment who has clearly been stalking her. Okay, but who is that though? I think she was also on the bus. At work the next day, her boss, whose name is Jack, decides to invite Anna out for drinks after work. Anna says that she has plans, presumably with Christian Grey, and Jack says that she should bring her plans with her to the bar. When Anna leaves work, the woman who's been stalking her runs into her and tries to get her attention. But when Anna asks if they know each other, she says,
"It's okay. I'm nobody."
Anna meets her boss at the bar after work, and they have a riveting conversation about Dante's Inferno. Christian Grey walks in on this conversation and picks up on the fact that her boss is interested in her.
What'll you have, Chris?
Thanks, Jack. Another time.
I can't believe you just talked to him like that.
He wants what's mine.
It's yours. It's a little presumptuous.
The couple goes back to Christian Grey's place where they cook dinner with each other at home, and it's while they're preparing dinner that Christian Grey reveals that he's actually purchasing the company that she works at.
No, you can't do that. That's my job. You can't start interfering in my career.
It's not about that.
Yeah, you better tell
wanted to move
him.
into
You better
publishing.
tell him.
They're the best fit.
But you're gonna be my boss.
Technically, I'll be your boss's boss's boss.
And I'm gonna be sleeping with my boss's boss's boss.
Well, right now, you're arguing with him.
Yeah, because he's being an ass.
An ass.
You better tell him. You better tell him, Anna. After having a bit of an argument, Anna walks up behind Christian and tries to touch his chest, but Christian stops her before she makes contact. And they have a really brief conversation about boundaries. So I'm liking the push and pull. Okay, like that's cute or whatever. And the two have sex for the first time since rekindling their relationship. All right, this is a little cute, kind of. I get it. Now, the thing that's interesting about this scene is that she's clearly trying to be a bit more of the leader. She's trying to be a bit more of the person who starts the naughtiness. In my opinion, it seems like she wants to be in control. She wants to be the person who, is leading instead of just sort of agreeing with what he wants. So apparently Christian Grey gave her a $24,000 check, and the next morning when they wake up after having sex and having a great moment with each other, she basically tells him that she does not want this check. So she rips it up. Then he gets on his phone and calls someone and transfers $24,000 into Anna's account because. Now, for me, this is a great example of Christian Grey not respecting consent. As you will remember from the last movie, he sold her car without asking her about it, which to me seems really shitty and presumptuous and controlling, but some women fantasize about men controlling their every move. And who am I to tell them what to believe? But I just want to make it clear that while men giving you gifts is nice, while men doing nice things for you financially is not necessarily always a bad thing, when you tell somebody no and they do it anyway, at least to me, that is a sign that they are probably not going to respect your consent fully. They go to brunch, I assume, and Christian Grey tells her that he's going to be going to a ball with his family and he would like her to be his date. Of course, she says that she doesn't have anything to wear, and I'm assuming we're going to be coming up on a shopping montage, much like 365. But the conversation's kind of cut short because Anna notices this girl sitting outside. She notices that the girl that she saw right outside of the bar is still following her, clearly trying to get her attention. She tells Christian Grey about it, and Christian Grey's like, we should go. We should get the hell out of here. As they leave the restaurant, Anna asks Christian if he knows who that woman is. And he says, don't worry, he's handling it. After brunch, Christian Grey takes Anna to the salon, but she's not exactly happy to find out who exactly owns the salon. Is that the woman? Is that the woman who... I think that's the woman. The woman who fucking abused him.
Why would you take me there? Why would you take me to meet the woman who seduced and abused you?
Yep.
Our relationship ended years ago.
Yep. You better be upset,
Just
girl.
friends.
Me too.
Explain to me what's going on.
I'll explain when we're there. Come on. Okay, you can either walk or I can carry you.
I'm walking.
No, it's your choice.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking walk. That's what she says. Please tell me.
Okay, fine, I'll walk.
Yep, you better walk, Anna. As they're leaving the salon, Anna puts the pieces together. The girl who's following her is clearly one of Christian's previous submissives. Back at Christian Grey's home, he explains their history together. Apparently, like Anna, she wanted more of a relationship from Christian Grey, but he was unwilling to give it to her. Apparently, she's been trying to get Christian Grey's attention since he started pursuing Anna. And one of the ways that she tried to get his attention was by attempting suicide in front of his housekeeper. In this scene, we also find out why Christian Grey always seems to know where Anna is. Ever since they've known each other, he's had people following her, and he's kept extensive records about where she is and what she's doing.
This isn't a relationship, Christian. It's ownership.
Yep, you tell him.
I'm trying to understand you.
What do you want out of him, girl? Like,
Just wanting to get close to you.
like this shit drives me crazy. Like, why? I mean, I get it. He's a rich white man, you know, who's in certain universes attractive, right? What do you get out of this girl? Like, there are, you know what, believe it or not, there are handsome white men with money who aren't going to do this. Why Christian Grey? I don't understand. Anna expresses frustration with all the things that he's done up to this point, including trying to clearly buy her affections and sabotage her path to her dream job. Christian then suggests that they should go to his room, and she says,
Sex is not gonna fix this.
all this time, Anna's been frustrated with the fact that she can't touch him, and he has never really drawn clear boundaries. And so he takes this moment to take off his shirt and show her exactly where the boundaries are. It's clearly a source of trauma for him. I'm very confused what's going on right now. Okay, I mean, he's like being vulnerable, I guess.
I'm all yours.
Okay, that's kind of cute. Okay, so my nails are so sloppily painted. I like this color. I don't know if I like this color on me. We'll see how I feel with this cover. What is this? This is called Solar Unicorn Skin. I've just been really loving this particular nail varnish. I think that's what they call it. Okay, so Christian Grey hires this hairdresser, and he comes in, does her hair, and then before they're off to the ball, Christian Grey says that he has something that would make the evening exciting. And he basically gives her, I don't know what to call these. They're basically anal beads, but they're for the front and not the back. And she puts them in, and she's like curious and excited, and they're off to the ball. How romantical. I'll be honest with you guys, like, there are so many aspects of this now that I think are a little bit more adorable, because at least Anna kind of knows what his deal is now. And I think they've gotten, you know, through sort of a bit of a hurdle where she was kind of coming to understand his kinky stuff, and they're still learning, and he's opening up, I love that for him, because, you know, I think he's going to be able to have healthier relationships that way. Yeah, we still don't really know what's going on with that girl. And I think that that's kind of looming over me right now. It's like, why would this woman be so driven to hurt herself? What did he do? Or is she just the kind of person who was predisposed to that? I don't know. We're still finding that out in this movie. But anyway, they're on to the ball now. So they go to the ball and they walk in together, and they are the hot couple at the event. And Christian's mother is really, really happy that they're back together. And they run into Mia, who is obviously Mia, you know, she's a weirdo. So I guess part of this ball is that there is a auction going on for charity, and Christian Grey put up for auction this vacation in Aspen. Apparently he has a house up there, because he's got houses everywhere. And Anna has a great idea. She decides that she's going to bid the $24,000 that Christian Grey gave her on this trip so that the money can go to somebody who really needs it. And this actually kind of turns Christian Grey on. I guess that this is a continuation of the push and the pull. So they go back and they manage to do a little bit of a BDSM scene. I guess that now she is more into it, I guess, which I think is kind of realistic, you know? Sometimes you don't really want to do stuff like that until it feels like it's your idea. And I think that that's kind of at least what I'm getting the point of this is that she's trying to do this on her terms, which I think is really healthy, honestly. The BDSM scene happened in Christian's childhood room, and tucked into a poster is a photo of a young woman who has a similar hairstyle to Anna. Anna asks who the woman is, and she manages to figure out that it's actually Christian Grey's mother, but it's obvious that Christian really doesn't want to talk about it. So they need to go back to the party, but Anna still needs some time to get ready, so Christian leaves before her, and Anna walks out, and as she's walking out, there's a man sort of standing on the stairs, and he's looking at some family photos, and when she passes him, the camera makes a point of capturing that guy taking a picture of the family pictures. I don't know why, but that's, I guess, to be discovered. Anna returns to the party and dances with Christian Grey. She excuses herself to the restroom, and that's when Elena, Christian's former dominant, corners Anna and tells her about what Christian Grey needs. She says that Christian needs a submissive in life, and that doesn't really seem like what Anna wants to be. Anna argues that he's changing and that he doesn't need that anymore. And Elena says that she's not the last woman who he thought could save him. So Anna is really shaken up after that interaction with Elena, and they drive back to Christian Grey's home. When they get to the garage, they notice that something's wrong. There's a bunch of people surrounding Anna's car. It turns out that Anna's car was vandalized. Wow.
Yes, sir, right away. Copy that. Smith, you stick with Mr. Gray. Stay with Mr. Gray.
Where are we going?
Wait, how does he have people following her at all moments, but isn't watching her car in the garage? Why aren't there people watching the car in the garage? That doesn't really make sense to me. On the weekend, Anna and Christian go on a boat ride and they talk more about Christian Grey's parents. He expresses that he's very thankful to his adopted mother, Grace, for taking him in, and that he tries really hard not to remember his birth mother. Anna returns to work and her boss reminds her about an upcoming book expo. And he reminds her that she has to book her own hotel room.
It's expected that my assistant also attends.
I'm sure it is.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. Just get yourself a room. Unless you'd rather stay back with your boyfriend.
He's bitter.
Late to work.
He's bitter. After her conversation with her boss, Anna texts Christian Grey and asks if she can go to the book fair on the weekend.
Philosophy that can motivate a highly skilled, well-paid workforce, builds a strong community.
What? And so, I'm sorry, I'm watching this. So she texts Christian saying that she's going to be going to work over the weekend, and Christian just says no. I hate this guy. Like, again, obviously her boss is kind of being weird or whatever, but this is her job, you know? Like, I get where he's kind of coming from. Like, he basically wants to pay for her everything and, you know, make it so that she can live off of him. But, like, I don't know. For me, that shit's really scary because, let me just level with you guys. Like, and look, you know, I'm a solo polyamorous, you know, girl, so maybe this is me living my life incorrectly, but I think that women should be, you know, focusing on having something for themselves, you know, something, because I've known so many women who have gotten into these relationships where they are completely dependent on their boyfriend, their husband, their whatever, and then when he's gone, they don't have anything. So for me, watching Christian Grey try to sabotage her job over and over again, even if her boss is creepy, it's kind of hard for me to watch because I know, just looking at this, that, you know, he's gonna put her in a position where she is totally alienated out of having a job, you know? And that's not good for her. And I think that somebody who really cares about you is going to allow you to have that space to get your shit done, to get your work done, to have a career for yourself. Anna comes to Christian Grey's home, and before they get a chance to talk about New York, she starts walking around his house and eventually sees that the playroom is open. She starts poking around, and eventually Christian Grey comes up behind her, and with a lot of hesitation, they do their first BDSM scene in the playroom since reconnecting. Christian Grey is obviously very hesitant to do this again because last time it happened, she freaked out and left. But you know, to be honest with you guys, I don't know how unrealistic it is for your first time doing BDSM to be kind of scary and upsetting. Anna and Christian Grey have sex and then have a brief conversation about New York. They agree that she's not going to go to New York for the book fair. The next day she goes into work and talks to her boss about how she's not going to be able to make it to New York, and her boss corners her into his office and basically tells her that if she's gonna fuck her way to the top, she needs to stick with him and not Christian Grey.
I just think.
Ew.
Just think. If you're gonna fuck your way to prominence, then you should do it with someone who can at least.
Wow. I feel like in the mythology of this movie, this guy has to be a bad person, but I want to say Christian Grey sabotaging her work, that's bad. That's bad. This dude being an asshole, that's bad. These things are both bad, you know? Of course, I think the movie is trying to say, oh, look, Christian Grey was right for being protected and for, you know, not wanting her to go alone with him to New York. And look, I agree. Creep, obviously creep, right? But that doesn't negate the fact that Christian Grey was attempting to sabotage her professionally, and I don't think that that's okay. Anna manages to get out of the office by kicking him and running downstairs, where Christian Grey is very conveniently waiting for her. Christian almost goes up and fights with the boss himself, but instead he sends one of his security guards because Anna needs to be comforted. Back at Christian Grey's home, we see that he's calling several of his contacts to make sure that her boss no longer has access to many of the things that he currently does. Christian Grey tells Anna that she won't have to worry about him anymore, and he asks her to move in with him. She says she'll think about it. The next day she goes into work and she's essentially asked to replace her boss, temporarily. After her day at work, she goes to dinner with Christian Grey, and of course she's very suspicious of the fact that she's now working the job that her previous boss worked. Christian ensures that he had nothing to do with it. He asks her again whether or not she wants to move in, and she essentially says yes. In fact, she says that they should take the celebration back home. Christian asks Anna to take off her panties at the dinner table, and she does. They go to an elevator, and in a crowded elevator, Christian starts fingering her. Oh my God. They're in a small ass little space, and he's bringing her to orgasm? I have to say that that is very, very, very inappropriate. Very inappropriate indeed. So they get to his apartment and Christian Grey has a phone call or something, and Anna walks off to his pool room. I don't know what room this is, so that she can make him wait the way that he's made her wait. Eventually, Christian Grey comes into the pool room and they play a game of pool, and they're very, very playfully doing the push and pull thing they do throughout this entire film, and they eventually have sex over the pool table. Okay, like I said, everyone has their own philosophy when it comes to BDSM, so I'm not gonna say that like what I like or what I'm into is what everyone should be into, but I think for me personally, as a submissive, what I enjoy about having sex with a person who I'm doing BDSM with, which is, I usually don't have sex with people I do BDSM with, but when I do, what I enjoy is sort of having this full, intense scene that was physically challenging for me, and then being released from that, and then subsequently in some sort of bottom or subspace. And I enjoy what sex feels like after we've done all of that stuff, you know? Like, I don't know, like, I guess I get turned on by my partner, who I know I have sex with, doing BDSM-y things to me. But I don't know, I feel like if we jumped right to sex, I think it would be not very exciting for me, but obviously we've already established that Anna doesn't really like the spanky thing that much, so maybe this is what they do, and that's fine. It's totally fine. Everyone has their thing. Anna gets in the next day, and we finally see the woman who is now working in the job that Anna used to have. This black woman was there before she got here, right? Like, she was there the first day she started working. It's gotta be frustrating to watch you know, somebody who was the boss's assistant move up so quickly, and she's a black woman. Girl, you know I can't watch these movies without thinking about this shit. After work, Christian Grey drives her to her old apartment so that she can retrieve some old things. I haven't heard from that girl in a while. I wonder what's going on with that. Speak of the devil, literally just as I said that. While retrieving her things, Christian's former submissive appears and points a gun directly at her. She expresses her jealousy and says that Anna isn't good enough for Christian Grey. Christian comes into the apartment and manages to stop his former submissive from hurting Anna. He tells Anna to wait back at home so that he can take care of his former submissive. And obviously this is confusing and upsetting to Anna. Yeah, walk away. Yeah, fuck him. Fuck him, girl. This whole situation really upsets Anna. She leaves her phone and her purse and everything and just starts aimlessly walking around the city. Eventually, she does show up to Christian Grey's apartment and they have a conversation about what just happened. Anna feels very insecure because she knows that she will never be as submissive as his former submissive.
I'll never be able to give you that.
Don't y'all get tired of this though? Like, isn't this exhausting to you? They have a conversation about whether or not Christian is ever going to feel the need to have a submissive again in the way that he used to with his former submissive. And this is where Christian finally makes a clarification about his desire to dominate and also reveals the reason why he likes what he likes.
I'm not a dominant. I'm not. The right term is a sadist. I get off on punishing women who look like you.
Like your mother.
Yes. And I know how fucked up that is.
The two go to bed and Christian starts having a bad dream. Anna runs to wake him up and he wakes up and turns over and says to her,
Marry me.
What?
I want you to marry me.
"What, sir?" Next day, Anna wakes up and Christian is in the gym working out. She asks him if he remembers what he said last night, and he says,
I meant it. I want to marry you.
Why?
"Girl,
Because I want to spend every second of the rest of my life with you.
we still have some stuff to talk about, sir." Your ex tries to kill me and now you want to marry me? I'm sorry. We've got some stuff to talk about. The next day at work, she gets a phone call from Mia, and Mia wants Anna's opinion on what she should get Christian for his birthday. It's at then where she realizes that she doesn't actually know Christian Grey's birthday, and she asks when his birthday actually is. Mia tells her that it's Sunday and that her parents are actually throwing a really big party in celebration for him. After work, she goes to a little kiosk and purchases a small little gift for Christian Grey. She meets Christian Grey after work and asks him about his birthday. She hands him the gift and says that he can't open it until it's his birthday. She notices that Taylor, his driver, isn't with him.
I'm going to get my bag.
Your bag? Where are you going?
Roz and I have to go to Portland for some meetings. I'll be back tomorrow night.
Oof. The next day, Christian Grey flies to Portland in his helicopter, but he decides to take a different route. This turned out to be a really bad idea, and his helicopter malfunctioned and crashed in the woods. Anna decides to go out for a drink with her old roommate who is dating Christian's brother. She tells them about their engagement, and soon after, Christian's brother gets a phone call, informing him of the car crash. They all rush to Christian's apartment and watch news coverage of the car crash, hoping that he's going to be okay. Suddenly, Christian appears in the apartment, and all is well. Excited to see him, Anna has sex with Christian Grey after the family leaves. Oh, where's the conflict, though? Okay, so we are at an hour and 51 minutes. We have 20 minutes left in this movie, and you know what, to be honest, like, where's the conflict? You know, like, where is the conflict here? You know, like, okay, he almost died in a fucking car crash, but everything seems so inconsequential. Do you know what I mean? Like, the girl seemed inconsequential. You know, the plane crash seemed inconsequential. He literally crashed and recovered and is fucking within the next day, you know? Like, there's really no conflict in this movie, not really. This is all fairly low stakes stuff that didn't really have any bearing on the plot or their relationship or really anything. Like, yes, it's scary that he could have died or whatever, but like, he doesn't, and I think we all knew he wouldn't, so I think I would have wanted there to be something more complicated. Like, what if Christian Grey were like kidnapped or some shit? Like, you know, like, why did his plane go down? Like, we don't fucking know. Like, It almost seems like it could have been some sort of sabotage of some sort, but that whole scene almost could have just like not happened. Anna calls her mother and tells her that not only did she get back together with Christian Grey, but that they're going to get married. And her mother seems really, really happy for her. They go to Christian Grey's birthday party and everybody's there, including Elena. They have a really awkward exchange, and then after that, Christian announces to the room that he's marrying Anna. Elena storms out of the room. After the announcement, Elena accosts Anna and says that she's just trying to use him for money. Christian breaks the argument up, and her mother forbids her from ever returning to her home. Christian and Anna walk to the greenhouse where they had their first big argument, and Christian formally proposes to her. Anna and Christian watch the fireworks, and from across the lake, you see a man watching the fireworks from afar. The camera reveals that the man is Anna's former boss. It's at this point that we recognize that he was the man who took the picture of the family early on in the film. He takes a cigarette and burns a hole through Christian Grey, and that is how this movie ends. All right, so I took my hair down, don't love it, finished my makeup, also don't love it, but it's also 3:25 in the morning right now as I film this, so I'm not gonna act like it's that big of a deal. We did our makeup, we did our nails look trash, makeup looks trash. I guess that is fitting for this movie. So I wanna start out by saying that in general, I feel really bored watching this movie. I mean, I like that I watched it because I am curious where it goes. But you know, honestly, after watching this whole thing, this didn't have a lot of meat in it. A lot of you guys told me that the second and third movies are not that good. And I'm gonna agree because I think I felt like there was more, there's more at stake in the first movie. Like this almost could have been a 40-minute short film, and I feel like we would have gotten the same amount of drama, the same amount of, you know, stakes. My biggest criticism overall of the film is that the stakes were too low. So what were the conflicts in this movie? We had Anna's boss, we had the girl, and we had Elena, and I guess the car crash. I guess that's a lot of things, but none of them really seemed very important. I really wish we had more time with Christian's ex. The reason why I wanted to do these videos is to really talk about, you know, how I feel about this stuff as a BDSMer, because I do really feel like there are some miscommunications and things that can happen if you are not part of the BDSM community. BDSM, again, is one of those things where there are a lot of people who have a lot of philosophies, and oftentimes those philosophies do not line up. I've got my philosophy. My philosophy is one that puts consent at the forefront of it. You don't force your kinks onto strangers. You don't push that shit onto people who don't want it. So I've got my issues with Christian Grey for that reason. I thought that there was less of a focus on BDSM, which I guess is part of this story. She's trying to push him away from BDSM, so I thought that was good. I thought that was great. But there are some other things that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this video. So first and foremost, I think that one of the things that we dash over a lot when we talk about this film is the obvious abuse. I did not like the way that Christian Grey went out of his way to sabotage Anna's career. Now, of course, we found out that the boss was a creep or whatever, and I'm assuming that he's gonna be even more of a creep from what I can piece together from the end of this movie. But at the end of the day, I really did not like that he was working to destabilize her working environment. To me, a classic sign of abuse is when somebody tries to alienate you from everything around you so that they're the only thing in your life, the only source of anything in your world. And that's clearly what Christian Grey wants to do. And more so than his interest in BDSM, I think his tendency and desire to do that is what makes him a shifty character. When it comes to his BDSM, he actually seems quite good about it because he actually isn't trying to force her into doing BDSM with her, which I think is a good thing. I think that this film was trying to say that because Christian Grey had a negative experience with one of his former submissives, that may indeed mean that he's going to have negative experiences with his new submissive. I've had people that were interested in playing with me who I later through the grapevine found out were abusive, and I had to ask around about them before I figured that out, and I heard the same story over and over and over again. I think sometimes it's hard in the BDSM community to know like what's what, because someone's bad experience does not mean that you're gonna have a bad experience. But at the end of the day, there are certain people who have repeat behavior, who continue to do bad things, and those people definitely deserve to be ousted and to not have access to people. And I think that good dominants are honest about their mistakes. That's one of the things that I've kind of started to learn as I socialize with more dominants, is that, you know, they will tell you where they've messed up. My partner Nathan has messed up in the past, and he has said, hey, I did this. This was a mistake that I made, and I am sorry. So I guess that's another mark against him, is he didn't really want to talk about the mistakes that he's made. He just basically wanted to say, oh, she's crazy. And to me, you know, whenever you meet a guy whose exes are always crazy, there's something wrong there. I don't think anybody just attracts this just endless stream of crazy people, and to the point where there is no sane ex. There's something up there. The fact that he's not quite willing to go into detail about what went wrong. All he can say was she was crazy and she wanted more and I couldn't give it to her. Some people could say that her wanting aftercare, which is a normal thing to ask, is her wanting more, right? But really for me, it's just, you know, part of it. It's just part of it. Now, of course, if you're young and you don't really know how to negotiate, you might totally overlook that, you know, you might not even know that that's a thing that you need, right? At the end of the day, I do believe that it is the role of the dominant to be the person who is more aware of the way that these things can go and to be prepared for that. So him not really negotiating, if that's what happened, him not really negotiating what her wants and needs are, that's not good BDSM in my personal opinion. I actually really appreciate that he clarified that he is not a dominant, but that he is a sadist, because I think that there is a pretty big difference between being a dominant and being a sadist. Obviously, a lot of dominants are sadists, but there are some people that like really enjoy sort of taking on that dominant role, and maybe that does have sadism attached to it. And then there are some people who like genuinely get off on just seeing women in pain. And, you know, as an aside about this, I understand how a lot of people who are outside of the BDSM community can look at that and say that that's misogynistic and da-da-da-da-da. And there's a lot of twinges of misogyny throughout this film, I will say. But I don't think that the idea of a man spanking a woman is inherently misogynistic. I don't think the idea of that specific dynamic is misogynistic. That all being said, it's clear, obviously, from this film that Christian Grey has a bit of an issue with women, I think. He has consistently gone after women who look like his mom, and that to me does speak to somewhat of an issue with women in general. But I don't think that that is something that you can tell based solely on his desire to do BDSM. I think that's a lot more apparent in his desire to destabilize Anna and to make it so that she is only existing for him. That's a very classic thing that misogynists believe, and I think that speaks volumes. So I wanted to talk really quickly about trauma in BDSM, because it's very obvious that Christian Grey has some degree of trauma that has led him to his BDSM interest. And, you know, first and foremost, obviously I'm having these conversations in this video as somebody who is taking all of this at face value. I'm treating all of these people as though they are real people and criticizing them based on that. But I will say that just from what I've seen so far, I think that whoever wrote this movie, whose name is escaping me at this point, because who cares, honestly, E.L. James, I think that's who wrote it. I think that she does not have a really good understanding of BDSM, or she has a very shallow understanding of BDSM. It's a very classic idea that once somebody experiences some sort of trauma, they are now into this very specific fetish, right? And that's true. That's very, very common. People do deal with trauma, and that does sometimes you know, translate into their BDSM. But what I want to push back on a little bit is this idea that everyone who does BDSM is deeply traumatized in some way, and that's why they do what they do. Because I don't think that that's really particularly true. Now, quite a few people that I personally know in the BDSM community do have some degree of experience with trauma. Personally, for me, I've dealt with a lot of trauma. If you are a regular subscriber of mine and you watch my True Tea videos, you know I talk a lot about my trauma. And I will say that part of my interest in BDSM, part of my desire to participate in BDSM has been me really figuring out ways to process consent and boundaries in a way that I wasn't really allowed to, you know, in previous parts of my life. I really appreciate that I can look at the things that happened to me way back when that were violent and were upsetting, and that I can understand those things as wrong, and that I could, via BDSM, state what my boundaries are. Because a lot of people don't ever have that conversation, especially if you're a woman. Obviously, we have these very surface level conversations about women claiming boundaries, right? But we don't often actually talk about saying no, and we don't often tell men to accept no. And for me, part of my appreciation for BDSM and the way that it functions in my life has been the fact that I can say no, and that theoretically on paper, the people who I'm doing BDSM with will respect that or should respect that. And so I guess that's kind of what I wanted to sort of say. I think it's just a classic trope of like this very traumatized guy, you know, grows up and is interested in BDSM. Again, I think this is a very surface level understanding of BDSM, so I'm definitely overthinking it and overanalyzing it. But I would like for people to understand that yes, some people who do BDSM have experienced some degree of trauma. Yes, but that doesn't mean that they are going to now turn that trauma into violence against other people. Not necessarily. For some of us, it's about figuring out ways in which to draw boundaries for ourselves. And so that's the way that I personally feel it. Obviously, everybody else is different. But I just wanted to argue for that, because I think that it's, you know, they took the truth of some people who do BDSM have experienced trauma and then translated that into something much different than what at least I've seen it be for a lot of people. You know what's so frustrating about these films is that there are so many really interesting nuances that come with BDSM. There are so many really interesting like stories to be told, especially when it comes to trauma, but they chose like the most simple, most commonly understood / misunderstood understanding of BDSM. I said in my first video in this series that I actually think that Christian would be way better as a submissive. I think that if he was a submissive, that would really change things. I think that would really be interesting, because men like Christian Grey often are, you know, men like Christian Grey often are submissive, you know, even if we are to connect this to his trauma, you know, there are some people who were disempowered when they were younger, who enjoy being empowered when they're older. There are also some people who enjoyed, in a very controlled way, embodying disempowerment or being disempowered, but in a controlled setting where they felt safe to do so. And I think that it could have gone that way as well. If we were to, you know, I think make it a little bit more interesting. Because again, I know so many people who are like Christian Grey, but they're not often dominant. Not really. There are some people like that. But a lot of times, the men who rule everything, control everything, you know, who have all the money and all the resources, they don't then want to be dominant on top of that in their private kinky life. That's just not super common, at least in my circles. Anyway, on that note, hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Also, if you guys want me to review other stuff, please let me know what you are wanting. There's a couple of things that I sort of have on my list tentatively. I got a lot of requests for Secretary. I know I've seen Secretary like when I was in film school, but I do not remember anything about it. I'm also watching through the Twilight series because apparently 50 Shades of Grey is nothing but a Twilight fanfic, which I've only seen the first Twilight movie at this point. I kind of see it a little bit. I do see some of it, but I'm assuming that it'll be more obvious as I watch more Twilight. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I am going to go. I'm gonna do something with this makeup because I just realized I just did my makeup and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and girl, what am I doing with my life? Like where am I going? What am I doing? So Yeah. Anyway, on that note, if you made it through this entire video, please put this emoji in the comment box below. I thought I'd throw that in for this video because regular viewers know about the emoji because they're part of the Cool Kids Club. But if you aren't part of the Cool Kids Club yet, I'm not gonna tell you that you need to put the emoji in the comment section, but I will say that a very handsome, very sexy Dommy McDomerson with lots of money and lots of cars and hella bitches is gonna be interested in you if you put the emoji in the comment box. I think that he might find you more attractive if you did that. If you just did that for him, I think that he would really appreciate that quite a bit. And you'd be part of the Cool Kids Club, which basically means that you're part of the coolest club on campus. So, it's up to you. Do what you want to do. Who am I? Who am I to tell you what to do with your life? You're so cute with your little canasta club or whatever. You go and have fun over there, but we're gonna be over here with the cool kids because we put the emoji in the comment section. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.